Hi, everyone. My name is Abeni Haynes.
And I am Frederick D. Haynes the third, and this is the Haynes Remix.
So, welcome back, everyone, to another episode. This is our 10th episode we've done, Dad. Did you know that?
Already?
Already. I mean,
Oh,
it's
wow.
including the first three that we did, and then we went on a
Way
long
last year? Yeah. Okay.
hiatus. But we
Yeah.
done 10 episodes. Season one.
Wow.
Okay. So, Dad, how are you today?
I'm I'm excited, grateful. Uh, I'm just blessed. And
That's
how are you?
I'm not the best. I'm a little under the weather, but it's okay. I'm going to push through. But Dad, by
That's
the
what you do.
when this when this episode airs, it will be the week that we will hear. Da, 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 da. Everybody, my dad's getting his PhD.
Hallelujah.
Congratulations, Dad. I'm very proud of you and happy for you. And I'm glad that this process is over because it stressed me out.
Yes, because you really worked hard, and I appreciate all the work you did. But on a serious tip, your support, your tech skills definitely helped this boomer navigate a, challenging time. Uh, it was a lot of work, but again, whatever else I've discovered, this was a communal effort, not individual. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who has encouraged me, who has prayed for me, and just helped me make this happen. Thank you.
I like how you said boomer because that leads right into today's episode. But of course, before we do that, what we got to do, Dad?
We got to do, we got to do, we got to do. Oh, you're not gonna say it?
It's time for the remix.
Thank you. Give me a little intro. Well, today's is from that wonderful passage, Romans 8:28, which I feel we lead from time to time. Because Paul writes, and we know all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to God's purposes. The Freddie Haynes remix of that wonderfully familiar text is, and we look forward to because we know for certain that even when life gets us down, God is up to something. When God is silent, God is not still, but strategically setting us up for what God has set us up for, because God has a recipe for our destiny. I love that right there because the fact of the matter is, you are a supremely gifted cook, chef, if you please. And of course, you have a recipe for many of the things that you make. And as a chef, as a gifted cook, you know that everything in the recipe by itself does not necessarily taste good. And yet, it's a part of the recipe that helps to make the end product what it should become. And I've discovered such is life. God is our cosmic chef. God is up to something. And God oftentimes uses ingredients that don't by themselves taste good. Disappointment doesn't taste good. Difficulties don't taste good. Suffering does not taste good. Adversity does not taste good. Even betrayal does not taste good. There's so many things that go with this thing called life, and by themselves, they don't taste good. And yet, God has a way of even taking the things that don't taste good by themselves, making it a part of a divine recipe. And by the time God is through with it, all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to God's purposes. I hold on to that, especially in days like these, where we find ourselves continuously assaulted by what Juan Floyd Thomas calls executive disorders. We find ourselves hearing bad news on top of bad news, notifications that let us know this thing is in disarray. And yet I hold on to the hope that God is up to something. Even when God is silent, God ain't still, but strategically setting us up for what God has set up for us. There is a recipe for your destiny. Hallelujah.
All right, yeah. So, we were talking about what we gonna talk about, and we were trying to figure it out. And from that conversation, I feel like I came up with something. You was going one direction, and I steered you another way.
Oh, I see. Okay. If that makes you feel better, go ahead.
Anyways,
It was a collaborative
it
effort.
was. It was. I'm sorry. You were going in the direction, and I just took the steering wheel. I was like, well, let's just
No,
swerve it.
because I inspired you. I inspired you. So
Okay,
it's a collab.
you inspired. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, but did you see the title of the episode that I plus
Oh
ChatGPT?
yeah. Oh yeah. It's fire. But again, it's daddy inspired.
All right. Anywho, so for this first segment, today we're talking about hoarding power, blocking progress. So we're talking about some generational stuff. My
Right.
dad kind of leaned into it when he talked about being a boomer and how a millennial, borderline. I feel like I got some Gen Z traits in me too. But anyway,
I do. I agree.
is that shade?
Not at all. Not at all. It's all shine.
Mm, okay. Well, anyway, Dad. So it was interesting that we had that conversation last night because um I had recently just seen a TikTok of David Hogg, who is the vice chair of the DNC, the Democratic
Right.
National Committee. And he was basically just talking about how he plans to um, pour into, I guess, fund some primaries of some Democrats that will go against incumbents. And it's basically just to bring some fresh, more progressive voices within the Democratic Party. So I looked up David and see what news was out recently. And Dad, did you know that Hakeem Jeffries said that he will stand by incumbent Democrats? And basically, this is a quote from Hakeem. He said, I'm going to really focus on trying to defeat Republican incumbents so we can take back control of the House of Representatives and begin the process of ending this national nightmare that's being visited upon us by far right extremism. So I think that is important. We do need to take back the House of Representatives and we do need to take back the Senate. However, I believe Linda Sarsour has said this. I saw an interview with, I don't know if it was Tamika. Oh, no, it was AOC. They said it's not just about electing Democrats, it's making sure you get the right kind of Democrats in. So, what do you
Right.
think about that balance? And then also, are you in support of David? And because we have a generational issue within the Democratic Party,
Yeah.
100%. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So let me say this. Number one, I understand David Hogg. Uh, First of all, keep in mind, he is a part of a generation. No, I mean, you talk about direct impact. David Hogg was attending Parkland School there in Florida when the mass shooting took place. What has been done since the mass shooting to improve regulations as it relates to who can buy guns, what has been done. As a matter of fact, David Hogg had to deal with that trauma. And then on top of that, he has witnessed every single day living in a country that every year has more mass shootings than it does calendar days. So I'm not judging him. I'm basically saying I get it because he has witnessed politicians talk about what? We do a mass shooting, we have a mass shooting, and all they offer up are thoughts and prayers, which is an insult to prayer as a person of faith. I mean, when you say thoughts and prayers, for me, faith without works is dead. For me, prayer is powerful. For me, I grew up believing prayer changes things, prayer changes people. And so when they say thoughts and prayers, as far as I'm concerned, their prayers are weak. Their prayers are whack. They're insulting prayers. And evidently, they can't think because nothing ever changes. And we continue to have on repeat the same old thing. So I begin by saying, I ain't judging David Hogg. I understand where he's coming from. I only put the brakes on the fact that, okay, two things. One, what do you do about those who have been serving a while? They're black and they're effective. Maxine Waters, she's been serving a long time, but she's also quite effective. My man in Houston, Al Green, millions of dollars have come to Houston because to that community because of Al Green. Jasmine Crockett, our own congresswoman in Dallas, effective. So
She's of a
I don't
new.
want to just throw up, but let me say this right quick, because my second piece is I also agree that we can't lose sight of the goal, which is to ignite a revolution against the current administration, which is fascist, which is authoritarian, which is white supremacist. We got to keep our eye on that goal. And my thing is, there are some who need to go, who've been in too long, but there are some who are effective. But I'm sure you have something to say as a millennial
Yeah.
with Gen
So,
Z tendencies.
anywho, um, so for one, I don't think Jasmine is in that bunch of people he would like the primary. That wouldn't be
Well, that's
smart.
true. Yeah,
And
you're
she's
right.
a newer generation.
Right. I agree.
My only pushback with those who are still effective, I think there still should come a point where you're grooming and pouring into, and not to say that they're not, but pouring into the next generation, so you don't end up like a Dianne Feinstein who, you know,
Right.
passed away while still in her seat. And then
And becoming senile and sick.
right, and then if you have, let's say, you have a Democratic representative or a senator that is has a is from a state where it's a governor who is a Republican, and based
Right.
on the politics of that state, like I believe it's Sheila Jackson Lee, her seat is empty, if I'm not mistaken, right now, and Greg
Well, I
Abbott.
mean, the one who succeeded her, uh, former mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner,
Right, and then
he became
right,
congressperson.
and then
And
he has
again, yeah, and he passed away. And, it's my frat brother, love him, knew him. But to go into office like that, knowing that, you know, and again, I love him, all due respect, but it put us at a disadvantage to go in knowing that you're not in the best health. And of course, any of us could go at any time, but I mean, that just wasn't fair.
right. And now you have Greg Abbott who's trying to prevent a
Yeah,
special election being taken place.
yeah,
So while there can be people who are effective, age is a thing.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not, and I'm not trying to be an ageist, but I'm just saying there needs to be some type of contingency plan, especially for those who are in Republican run states, even if you're a Democrat, because Republicans are going to try to do everything to hold on to that power. And we still see it within the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. We talked about this a few episodes ago. How AOC and Jasmine Crockett were trying to become
yeah,
ranking members of their committees, and no, that did not happen. They went to an older generation, people who represent an old guard. And unfortunately, we are not going to beat a fascist government doing the same old, same old. And I think that a lot of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, including Hakeem Jeffries, represent the old guard, and that's just not going to work. You're not going to satisfy your base or people who are so turned off by this administration by just, oh, we just have to be against Trump. And that's what David Hogg said. You have to give people something to vote for, not just vote
right,
against. And that's the
right.
problem with the old guard and those traditional Democrats. Because Hakeem, he's young, and he's still, it's not always an age thing too. It's oh, I'm playing into the tradition of the Democratic Party, or I'm
Yeah.
bought and paid for. So yeah.
No, I think I mean, every point you make is legit. And now we have to start having a serious conversation about, should there be an age limit? Should there be term
Yeah.
limits? I mean,
Yeah.
should there be term limits? I mean, that's the kind of conversation that we need to have, because, unfortunately, it's set up right now where the longer you serve, the more power you have.
Right.
And in that kind of setting or setup, it encourages you to stay as long as possible. It encourages you to get reelected over and over. And here's the sadder thing, and that is basically, okay, if I get more power the longer I serve, then most of my energy is going to always be spent on getting reelected. And so, what we've got to take a good look at right now is the system that produces and rewards a Dianne Feinstein, a system that produces and rewards a Hakeem Jeffries, as it were, because systems, I always
Nancy
say,
Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi, they're designed to produce outcomes. And right now, we got to take an honest look. Are these outcomes best serving us? And that is why, I got to give credit to your generation. I got to give credit to David Hogg. David Hogg is basically saying, I watched a tragedy unfold. Y'all didn't do a thing about it. I've watched tragedy after tragedy unfold. You still ain't done nothing about it. It's time for a generation to rise up and say, we're going to make some serious changes. And, unfortunately, a lot in my generation are basically hoarding power and in the way.
Yeah, and I think so. Something you said about age limits and term limits, and the more power, the longer you're serving, the more power you get. I think
Right.
there's a fine balance in that, because I do think you should, when you are in certain positions for a certain amount of time, you gain more wisdom, more knowledge,
Oh, yeah.
understanding how the system works and everything. So I think there should be age and term limits in conjunction with, you should be rewarded for, you know, serving in office, because I do believe there's a certain amount of wisdom that you'll have. Like Nancy, to Nancy's credit, like, she knows how to work the system. I mean, she even called out Chuck Schumer, and she was like, I would never, just give something and get nothing in return. She said
Right.
that she knows how to work the system. That comes with wisdom, that comes with experience. However, just like for the president of the United States, not him, but the seat itself, you have to be what, 35 in order to run?
Right.
Because I'm guessing that they were considering, the development of a person's brain and everything like that. Well, there comes a time in people's lives where you get a certain age and your brain starts to decline. That's a scientific fact. So I don't see why. Sorry, I just got real kind of okay, whatever. I don't see why people who are like 75 plus are still in office or running. And I was real gracious with that 75.
Well, and again, I'll put it to you like this. We have seen, and this is why the conversation needs to be had, and it needs to be uh I mean, it needs to be had because of the fact that there are some who have passed 75 who are still effective, who are still sharp. So,
But
um,
then they should be able to be in their right mind still, who are still effective, still sharp and everything, where they are still of a certain strength to be able to say, okay, now is the time for me to start pouring into the next generation or whatever. So
right,
then can you can mold somebody into being that effective person instead of, you know, the death little demon starts knocking on your door and you out and you have no say so on, or not even say so, but you're just not able to pass down the knowledge and everything that you gained because you've taken all this time just hoarding power. Well,
right.
you're being effective, but you're still hoarding power. Now, real quick, because the second part of this first segment is also talking about the church. Because I think we got that issue too at churches where people get so caught up in their positions. And you want to know something? I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I have a feeling. Oh, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. Should I get in trouble? I have a feeling that people who, especially in the church, who can be like really mean, rude, and they hold positions of leadership. That they do that because they have nothing else going on in their life.
I mean, I think that definitely, in some cases, is legit. You can't deny it. In other cases, some folk are just mean. Some of the meanest folk I've ever met are in church. And they mean at church, they mean at home, they mean on their job. They're just consistently wired to be mean. And again, I think you have a point that there are others who it's like, this is all I have. And I want to say this after our conversation last night, did a little research, and in terms of the boomer generation, one of the things, and I'm going to read this right quick, that was said that is very interesting as it relates to, church is that boomers were shaped by segregation, the civil rights movement, and post-war optimism. And as a consequence, the church, which was the center of so much of the civil rights movement, became all they had. And at the same time, for many in that generation, the church was the one place where I could come and have some dignity because I was not getting it on my job. I was being disrespected on my job. But at the church, I'm deacon so and so. At the church, I am chairman this. At the church, I'm this person, I'm that person because the church gave me a sense of dignity. And so I think that's one of the things that it's really important for everyone to understand is that there are generations who've grown up where the church provided for them a sense of identity, community, and dignity. And when they feel it is being threatened, then of course they're going to, you know, respond in a way that may not be perceived as nice.
Actually, that like kind of was a cute checking of me, because I was
Thank
like,
you.
all right, not too much. Anyway, um, but yeah, it actually gives like a historical context, and a lot of times the people that I am imagining in my head are of that generation where, yeah, because then back then the church is where you feel sense of community, comfort, identity, and
Yeah,
you can have some sort of power in that and affect whatever change or just programs, anything like that. So that actually makes a lot of sense. And I will somewhat back off people. However, that does not give you an excuse to be rude and
I agree.
mean
Yeah,
and to
I
hold
agree.
on to. I think maybe the church, like church people, we need to have a big therapy session
Yeah,
so the generations can heal. Because also, like the whole generation piece, it's not just like, okay, we're holding on to power, but it's just like it shouldn't just be a holding on to power. And this is on the political landscape and the church and everything, but it should also be like, how do we transfer this to our younger generation so they can be effective in everything? But
yeah.
anyway,
Well, no, I want to say this because I think it's very important that we not allow what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, which is this erasure of all things, quote unquote, racial, to conveniently, as far as they're concerned, erase their dirt. But one of the things that hit me after our conversation last night, and then when I saw what you had curated for this conversation, is that when you look at a whole lot of the dysfunction, the trauma, induced behavior that we demonstrate, it all goes back to something racial. And so you have a generation shaped by what? Segregation, civil rights fight, being treated as second class citizens legally. Uh, and then your generation grew up, what, with Black Lives Matter, witnessing trauma that took place as a result of, police killing unarmed Black people. Uh, I mean, all of this has something to do with the context in which we find ourselves. And I think that's very important because if we're not careful, we'll invest a lot of energy getting mad at each other as opposed to what produced this. Martin King was responding to a question about the violence that was breaking out in cities on the Mike Douglas show. And his response was to quote Victor Hugo. He said, "In darkness, crimes will be committed. The guilty ones are not just those who commit the crimes, but those who create the darkness." And what I want to suggest is that a lot of times we don't spend any energy dealing with those who created the darkness because we see each other more, we interact and engage with each other more, and in the process, we often can be rude to each other, and therefore we spend major energy on each other as opposed to what created the trauma induced behavior. And that leads me to this. One of our solutions is we're going to have to, as a community, come to grips with what you've been saying in this conversation. Why don't we structure, place in systems, succession planning, succession development, so that, we don't die in office, we don't, become old and senile, and lose brain cells because we've
Mitch
been
McConnell.
around so long. Yeah, not to mention Chuck Schumer, and so because it's both sides, and so we're going to have to develop successful succession planning, because as the old statement goes, there is no success without succession, and in too many instances, we have success for one generation, but then we don't have succession beyond.
That's good. Well, we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back. All right. All right. All right, we're back. So, Speaking of
You,
generations,
uh-oh.
what?
I think this next
Anyway,
part is on parenting.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
uh-oh.
it's not a uh-oh. I feel like this will be productive.
Okay.
Anywho, so I remember maybe it was some years ago, and I had asked you, um, I don't know what sparked this. Something made me ask you this. But I had asked you if um you would still like if you were raising me today, like if I was younger, would you still have disciplined me by like spanking me? And you said no. And so then I went and asked mommy, and she she's old school. Let's just leave it at that. So, um so anyway, I wanted to know, like, for one, what changed your mind, and does it lend itself to? Because I feel like so spanking and whipping. By the way, everybody, don't call CPS. I'm okay. I'm alive, even though my dad's very strong and the whooping spoon it hurt. As a matter of fact, let me tell a story real quick.
A spoon, okay? A spoon.
That's not the only thing you whoop me with. Do you
Anyway,
want them to call CPS on you?
anyway.
So when I was little, when I would get in trouble, so we had a two-story house. And so when I would get in trouble, so we would come home, and I think the car rides would be quiet. And I would just go up to my room, and I would know I'm getting a spanking because I would hear the drawer downstairs in the kitchen open. And you just hear all of the utensils. And then he would take the wooden spoon out. He would come upstairs. He would sit in his chair in his bedroom. And then he would call me in there. And guys, it was just so sad. Oh, yeah, Dad, I want to tell him one time that you scared me so much that what happened?
Oh God, I don't remember.
Yes, you do. What happened?
No, I don't
What
know.
happened?
I don't know. Can we have this conversation?
Okay, so yeah, what changed your mind, and what type of parenting skills would you implement? Because two things. I listened to an interview with Tina Knowles. She has a book out called Matriarch right now.
Yeah,
That's really good. And she talked about how she had to parent Solange and Beyonce according
right,
to their personalities and how they were. And then Charlemagne,
right,
he had a conversation with Mel Robbins, and he's talked about this a lot. But he talked about how his father parented him out of fear and not love.
right.
Not to say he didn't love him, but he's just fearful of, the world around. So, what would your parenting skills look like today versus back then when I used to get a whooping?
Well, and so let me say this because both Tina Knowles and Charlemagne gave me language for, what I was doing back then, which had everything to do with how I had been brought up. I mean, my mother and father, put the fear of God in me. And, you know, they put the
Not
fear of
sweet
God
old
in me.
Grammy.
Yeah, right. Anyway, my worst beatings came from your Grammy, uh,
Do we need to
who
call
had,
CPS on her?
oh yeah, definitely. But no, very seriously, what she would do and what my dad did, and that's what Charlemagne and even Tina Knowles suggested, as she reflected on what her mother did to her, Tina Knowles. Um, and that is they were parenting out of fear. Fear of what? Fear that when we left the house, that something would happen if we did not behave a certain way. I will never forget. Um, and this is full confession. I was preaching one time when I was much younger, and I didn't even have no kids. You know, you were not born. And so here I am up here preaching about discipline. And, the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. So I use that text and I said, because uh, if you don't discipline them, then the police will. I said that in a sermon, and I hate to this day that I made a statement like that. But what made me say it? What the police would do. I said that because I live in a sick country where policing and surveilling of our community basically makes me say, well, I got to beat my kids so the police don't beat my kids. No, no, that's fear based. That's fear based. And again, which is not to say love wasn't there. I know my dad loved me. I know my mom's loves me. But there was fear that if I did not behave a certain way once I left that house, that I would get disciplined by the police and I may not survive it. And
So then,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
That's an indictment on this country. And I I'm grateful for Charlemagne. I'm grateful for Tina Knowles giving language to what it is we've been dealing with. And then here I come as a parent, and all I knew was what I experienced. And so what I did with you was a reflection of how I had been socialized. And, when you asked me those years ago, would I do it again? No, ain't no way. Because every single time, and here's what black folk used to say when I was growing up, and they get ready to discipline us. This is gonna hurt me more than this gonna hurt you. Like, yeah, right. And
Exactly.
uh, but I understand it because I'll put it to you like this, and I don't think I've ever shared it with you to this degree. Every single time I had to discipline you physically, it bothered me for weeks at least. I was just messed up in the head. And, because, I love you. You're my daughter. And to see you crying at my hands, it was a horrible, heartbreaking experience that, again, it just threw me. And so when you asked me how I would do today, I would look for ways to both communicate with you. This is what you did. These are the consequences if you continue down this path. I would try to have a conversation with you. I would not only have a conversation, but there would be consequences that, were not physical, but that would reflect the choices you made. And okay, since you made this choice, this will be the consequence, because this would be the consequence if you made this choice in the world. It's not going to help you in the days to come. So I need you to see that with every choice you make, there are consequences without resorting to that which is physical. Now, uh, I got a lot of folk in my generation who disagree with me. Your mother disagrees with me. And that's their prerogative. I understand that. But for me now, I just, and there are studies that have shown that this wasn't necessarily the best way, the way we did in the past, which again, it was rooted in fear.
Mm. So then how, because I mean, we still live, even though times have changed, the way racism is executed in the world is different, but it's still there, it's still
Yeah.
prevalent. So, how do you strike that balance of not putting fear in a maybe there should be like a healthy fear. How do you still a healthy fear in a child without resorting to physical violence? Um, would you say that's through communication of, you know, what's going on?
See, that's tough because if the Bible is right that perfect love casts out all fear, then I don't know. And yeah, I mean, fear can be healthy because I mean, once you find out fire is hot, you have a healthy fear of it. So yeah, that's a good point right there. Um, that's a good question. I'm not going to profess to have the best answers to right now. I would say, and I'm going to turn the question back on you, but I would say it's very important that there are consequences that are experienced by children at the hands of their parents for behavior that is unhealthy, for behavior that, you know, won't work when you're outside in the world. Now, let me also say this because the question becomes, I mean, people are wired differently. And there are some people, I have, friends who, would quickly say, that the only way they got some sense was because of the fear they had that they were going to experience a beating, a beat down, a whooping, not just spanking, but a whooping. Uh, so you got to also keep in mind how people are wired. And again, I am not in any way, shape, form, or fashion prescribing, my way as the only way. I'm saying that what your girl Tina Knowles said is so right. And that is you have to know how your children are and respond to them according to how they are wired. And again, I got to know you, through the years. And for you, with me especially, I know you don't like disappointing me. And I think,
To say like that is my fear. I don't like. I hate when like that's. You're gonna make me emotional. I don't like when I disappoint you and mommy. Like when you all are upset with me, that breaks my entire heart.
and so for me, and I knew that early on, you know, well, that's all you needed. You didn't,
Exactly. And you
you
up
didn't
here
need to.
spanking me. Oh
And
my god.
again, I apologize. I was wrong. I wish I had.
Can you get your wife to apologize to me too, please?
That ain't happening, Captain.
But yeah, that's interesting. I also saw this interview. DJ Envy and Gia Casey, his wife, they also, interestingly enough, they're releasing or they have released a book on parenting and how they parent their children. And Envy, I think it's the same process that like you and mommy have where you're like evolved and mommy's like no this is mommy is very my way or the highway, and Envy in his interview you could tell it's my way or the highway, whereas Gia, she was like, I like to explain to my children, but she also said like having that balance of me explaining the why is not because you're entitled to know why, it's because I am giving you this privilege. Now, this isn't something that you necessarily, I don't want to say deserve, I don't know, but it's just, I just brought that as because interesting to see the different types of parenting, because they're in the same generation, yet Envy's like, well, like the way my dad said, it was like whatever he said goes. And so when my parents
Right.
say, I want to do this, and I say no, it's because I said so. There's no
Yeah.
reason. Whereas Guy is like, well, you can't go to this party because it's not safe. You know, there was a shooting there, like stuff like that.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So well, I'm glad I got an apology. You not gonna say nothing?
I've already said it, so I mean, and I've already told you I wouldn't do it again. So I don't know why we got to keep on rehashing the sins of my parental skills.
Okay, well, we just need to get one more apology because be told, mommy still has a very because I said so attitude. And
That's
I'm
on
grown.
y'all. I ain't in that.
Okay, well, anyway, I think this was a very good conversation in terms of we covered politics, we delved a little into the church, and we even got you to apologize to me. Um, no, but a good conversation around parenting, and hopefully, people will, especially like older generations and people within the Black community, anybody who's listening will, think about their parenting styles and hopefully come up with healthier options if they're not already in a healthy parenting or a gentle parenting stage of their
Let
life.
me ask you this. What would you do now? When God gifts you with a child, what are you going to do? What's going to be your discipline? If the child does something crazy, what you going to do?
So I don't think I'll ever spank.
Okay.
But I think a little tap, like, hey, no. I think that's as far as I'll go physically. And then I mean, I like I feel like a lot of people say you don't know until you know, and like you don't know how to parent until you become a parent.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
I don't, you know, I feel like I might get paid back for whatever I did to you and mommy. So I'm
Huh.
not looking forward to that.
I'm looking
Especially
forward to you
I
apologizing.
I pray to God I get a son because if I get a daughter, oh God, I'm probably gonna have to apologize to mommy over and over again. I hope. Please let me just I would like a daughter, but if I just have one, just let me have a son. We just end it at that. So yeah, I don't know until I know. I would like to like Tina, how she was able to diagnose. Well, Beyonce, she don't like going to school. She responds to music. That's what she needs. Solange needs structure. I need to give her. So I'll find out when I get there.
Good answer.
Thanks. We'll be right back. All right, so we want to thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you. I also want to send a special shout out to Yolanda Bledsoe and Deidre Keener. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Sorry, Deidre, if I messed up. I really apologize. But they have been faithful listeners. They're also faithful members of Friendship West, and they own the best bakery in Dallas, Texas. So
In
y'all
the world. I mean, they are just
period.
amazing.
Yes, and they're the sweetest people. So they've been very supportive. So I just really want to shout them out, and including everybody who's listened to us. I really appreciate it. If you have not listened to all of our other episodes, I encourage you to go back because y'all ain't gonna see us for a few weeks. So
Uh
go back and don't.
oh.
We gonna be back. We ain't taking a 5 month hiatus, however long it was. I don't know. But anyway, yes, please go and listen to all of our other episodes. Please give us feedback. Please go to our mailbag and, stay up to date with all we have going on at fdhministries.org/the-haynes-remix. Or you just go to fdhministries.org and the Haynes Remix will be on the front page. You can also follow us on social media at the Haynes Remix. And you can follow me on social media at Abeni Jewel.
Now, at the Haynes Remix, that's on Instagram, right?
It's on Instagram. Unfortunately, our TikTok is inaccessible right now. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, my social media, of course, is at FH Unscripted. And so follow me on the socials. Do they like and subscribe this on this too?
Like and subscribe. This is crazy. You can like this video on YouTube and you can
Okay.
subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, my dad's
Okay.
YouTube channel as well. Please
Okay, cool.
tell all of your pastor and preacher friends. Stop saying like and subscribe us. That sounds crazy.
Oh, you just did.
No, I was just whatever. Okay, anyway. I would say like and subscribe. Like our channel and subscribe to our channel. Like this video and subscribe to our channel. Anyway,
Okay.
let's wrap up.
All right.
You don't want to thank
Who are you?
anybody?
Well, again, thank you. I so appreciate you all tuning in every week. And after our extended hiatus, you still got back in stride with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it just means everything. So I appreciate all the love you give us when I run into you, especially as I'm traveling. It means a whole lot. And again, I'm with Ob. Shout out to two sisters. They are the best. And we appreciate and love both Yolanda and Dee. They are gifts, not to mention those amazing kids.
All right. Well, I am Avani Jewel Haynes.
And I am Frederick D. Haynes the third. And this was the Haynes Remix. Yeah.